sometimes the most profound connections are forged in silence. If you've ever wondered what true friendship looks like in its rawest form, stay with me until the end of this story. What happened that night changed both our lives forever, but not in the way you might think. If this story resonates with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories about human connection and resilience. The rain was relentless that night, hammering against my windows like an urgent message from the universe. I was curled up with a book I wasn't really reading, my mind drifting between the lines, when 3 soft knocks pulled me back to reality. It was nearly midnight. I opened the door to find Eliza standing there, drenched and shivering. Her dark hair clung to her face, mascara trailing down her cheeks in black rivers. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The small suitcase clutched in her white-knuckled grip told me everything I needed to know. Eliza and I had been friends since college, but our lives had taken different paths. She married James right after graduation, a whirlwind romance that swept her off her feet. I chose a different route, building my career as a writer, living alone in my small apartment on the edge of the city. We still met for coffee every few weeks, but lately, those meetings had grown strained. The light in her eyes had dimmed, though she never complained. I stepped aside, and she walked in, leaving puddles on my hardwood floor. I didn't care. I took her suitcase, led her to the bathroom, and handed her a towel and some dry clothes. When she emerged, her face was scrubbed clean, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen since we were 20. "He's gone," she finally whispered, her voice cracking on the second word. "He left a note. 3 years of marriage, and all I get is a note." I made tea, the way I knew she liked it, 2 sugars, a splash of milk. We sat on my worn sofa, the silence between us comfortable yet heavy with unspoken words. "I should have seen it coming," she continued, staring into her mug. "The late nights at work, the emotional distance, the way he couldn't look me in the eye anymore." She took a shuddering breath. "The note said he's been seeing someone from his office. 4 months. I didn't offer platitudes. I didn't tell her everything would be okay or that she was better off without him. Instead, I listened. Sometimes, that's all someone needs, a witness to their pain, someone to hold space for their grief without trying to fix it." That night, Eliza slept in my bed while I took the couch. I lay awake, listening to the occasional muffled sob through the wall, feeling helpless yet knowing my presence was enough for now. Days turned into weeks. Eliza's temporary stay stretched on as she navigated the brutal aftermath of betrayal. She called in sick to work for the first week, barely leaving my apartment. I worked from home as much as possible, writing my articles at the kitchen table while she moved like a ghost through the rooms. The first real breakthrough came on a Tuesday, exactly 17 days after she showed up at my door. I came home to find her cooking dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta with Jared sauce, but it was the first sign of life I'd seen from her. "I called a lawyer today," she said, stirring the sauce with mechanical precision. "And I went by the house to get more of my things while he was at work." I nodded, setting my laptop bag down. "How did that feel?" "Terrible," she admitted. "And necessary." That night, we ate pasta and drank cheap wine, and for the first time, she laughed, a small, rusty sound, but genuine. It was the sound of something broken beginning to heal. The healing wasn't linear. There were days when Eliza seemed almost like her old self, making plans, talking about finding her own place. Then there were days when grief ambushed her, and she'd curl up on the couch, unable to face the world. I learned to ride these waves with her, to recognize when she needed space and when she needed company. 1 month in, she found a therapist. She asked me who my support system is, Eliza told me after her first session. "I told her about you. About that night. She said I'm lucky." Her eyes met mine. "I am, aren't I?" I shrugged, uncomfortable with the gratitude. "You'd do the same for me." "Would I?" she mused. "I'm not sure I would have known how. I think I spent so many years trying to be the perfect wife that I forgot how to be a friend." That conversation marked another turning point. Eliza began to see her marriage more clearly, not just James's betrayal, but the ways they had both compromised themselves, the red flags she had ignored, the parts of herself she had silenced to keep the peace. 3 months after that rainy night, Eliza found an apartment of her own. It was small but bright, with large windows that faced east. For new beginnings, she said as she signed the lease. I helped her shop for furniture, not replacing what she had left behind, but finding pieces that spoke to her evolving taste. The divorce proceedings were ugly at times. James contested things he had no right to contest, dragged his feet on paperwork, alternated between pleading for reconciliation and cold hostility. Through it all, Eliza stood her ground with a strength that amazed me. I couldn't have done this without you, she told me one evening as we painted her new living room a soft sage green. That night, when I showed up at your door, I didn't know where else to go. I couldn't face my parents' pity or my sister's "I told you so." I just needed someone who would let me fall apart without trying to put me back together in the wrong shape. I dipped my roller in paint. Sometimes we need to completely come undone before we can figure out who we really are. 6 months after James left, Eliza went on her first date. Not with romantic intentions, she insisted, but just to remember what it felt like to dress up and have a conversation with someone new. When she came home early, looking thoughtful rather than disappointed, she said, "He was nice. But I realized something, I'm not ready, and that's okay. I'm still getting to know myself again." Instead of dating, Eliza threw herself into rediscovering old passions. She joined a community choir, something she had loved in college but abandoned when James commented that her singing embarrassed him. She took a pottery class and brought home lopsided mugs that we used with exaggerated ceremony. She started running, first just around the block, then training for a 5K. I watched her unfold like a flower turning toward the sun, revealing colors and textures that had been there all along, just waiting for the right conditions to emerge. A year after that rainy night, we sat on her balcony, drinking coffee from her homemade mugs, watching the sunrise. "Do you know what today is?" she asked. I nodded. We both knew. "I've been thinking about sending James a thank you note," she said, and laughed at my startled expression. "Not because I'm grateful he cheated, but because his leaving forced me to find myself again. If he hadn't left, I might have spent decades in that half-life, never knowing what I was missing." "Would you really thank him?" I asked. She considered this, watching the sky turn from pink to gold. "No," she decided. "But I do thank the universe for that push, as painful as it was. And I thank you, for opening your door that night." "Always," I said simply. Eliza reached over and squeezed my hand. "You know what the strangest part is? A year ago, I thought my life was ending. Now I realize it was just beginning." That's the thing about rock bottom, it can be a foundation to build upon. Eliza's story isn't about a marriage that failed, it's about a woman who found herself in the aftermath. It's about the quiet power of showing up for someone without expectations or demands. It's about the kind of friendship that creates space for transformation. Today, Eliza is thriving. She's been promoted at work, has a wide circle of friends, and recently started dating someone who appreciates her singing voice. She still brings me lopsided pottery creations, and we still meet for coffee regularly. But now when she talks about the future, her eyes shine with possibility rather than resignation. As for me, I learned something too. I learned that sometimes the most profound gift we can give another person is our presence, not our advice, not our solutions, just our willingness to stand witness to their journey, to hold space for their pain and their growth. If you're watching this and you're in a dark place, remember Eliza. Remember that showing up at someone's door might be the bravest thing you ever do. And if someone shows up at your door, rain-soaked and broken, remember that simply opening it might change both your lives in ways you cannot imagine. Life breaks all of us at some point. But in the breaking, we discover what we're truly made of, and sometimes, that discovery is worth every crack in our foundation. If this story touched you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories about resilience, friendship, and finding strength in unexpected places. Remember, the darkest nights often lead to the brightest dawns.